Boo! I'm Mary.
And I'm Katie, and this is the Housewife Did It.
Halloween edition.
Woo! Part 2.
Yeah. It feels like it feels like weird to already be doing part 2 because we recorded part 1 this week also.
Yeah.
We normally don't record twice in the same week.
Yeah.
But we are here. We are ready for part 2. I also like that mine do relate to the Cecil but aren't centered in the Cecil. So there's a little bit of variation. But yeah, I don't have any real-time true crime right now. I don't know if I should, if I missed something, but
I think so.
I do have a content warning.
When y'all are listening to this, it's Friday the 13th.
I was like, I didn't even know that was what it was. I do have a content warning for sexual assault, attacks on children, and attacks on the elderly. But I'm sure you already know that because we are bringing you an episode about Richard Ramirez. So, are you ready?
Yes.
You buckled in?
Yeah, I'm more freaked out that this is Friday the 13th in another world. But at least it's not in this world.
Yeah. All right. So, sometime in the mid-1980s, a young man booked a room on the top floor of the Cecil Hotel for $14 a night. Baller. Each night he would go out, and when he returned, he was always either wearing only underwear or was completely naked. At the time, his behavior didn't alert anyone in the hotel because it was considered normal amidst the kind of chaos the Cecil attracted. People likely believed this man was a junkie, especially considering that corpses regularly appeared in the alleys near the hotel or even within the hotel, and it was always assumed that they were junkies. The man who came home to his hotel room each night naked after dumping his bloody clothes in the dumpster outside didn't stick out at all. He had found the perfect place to hide in plain sight while he built up his reputation as the Night Stalker.
I already have a question.
Okay.
Do we know, is he just purchasing new clothes all the time? Is this man just rolling in cash? Or is he going back and fetching his clothes out and washing them the next day?
He steals a lot.
Oh, good. Got it.
So I'm assuming that's where he gets the clothes.
That's fair. Resourceful.
Yeah. They can say many things about Richard Ramirez, but you cannot say that he didn't fend for himself. So, Richard Ramirez was born Ricardo Leyva Munoz Ramirez on February 29th, 1960 in El Paso, Texas, to parents Julian Tapia Ramirez and Mercedes Munoz Ramirez. It is safe to say that Richard's childhood was rough on him. Sorry, I have the sniffles. Richard's father was a former Ciudad Juarez policeman and later became a laborer on the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway. He was reportedly an abusive alcoholic to Richard, his siblings, and his mother, and it is believed that this abuse is what started Richard's interest in violence and morbidity. It's reported that Richard had been knocked unconscious and almost died on several occasions before the age of 6, which later caused him to develop temporal lobe epilepsy, aggression, and hypersexuality. By the age of 10, Richard was smoking marijuana and drinking alcohol. The strongest influence on Richard, however, may have been his older cousin. When Richard was 12, his cousin Miguel Ramirez returned home from the Vietnam War, ready to share all he had experienced with Richard. Miguel, or Mike as his family called him, was a decorated Green Beret combat veteran, but during his time in the U.S. Army, he committed several war crimes, which he was eager to brag about to anyone who would listen, including his preteen cousin. He gladly showed Richard Polaroid pictures he had taken of himself raping, murdering, dismembering, and decapitating Vietnamese women while he was fighting in the war.
Jesus.
Yeah. Richard was fascinated by these images and wanted to know more.
Who is taking
Mike
these pictures?
Good question.
I need to talk to the military.
Yeah. Mike taught Richard military skills, and Richard learned how to stay out of sight and move quietly, even sleeping in a cemetery to hide from his own father. Which is, like, sad.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't have to turn out like this.
That can still be sad.
Yeah.
As Morbid tells us, sad.
Feel bad for the
kids, yeah. Not for the adult.
Yeah. On May 4th, 1973, possibly the most life-altering moment of Richard's childhood took place. While spending time with Mike, he and his wife Jessie got into a heated argument that ended with Mike fatally shooting Jessie. Richard saw the entire ordeal, but later noted that it didn't scare him. It was just interesting to him. However, friends and family noted that Richard became withdrawn after the incident. Mike was found not guilty due to reason of insanity, citing his PTSD as the source.
What?
He was sent to the Texas State Mental Hospital.
Again, I say, that is not my understanding of legal insanity.
Yeah. I also don't, if you did murder someone and were found legally insane, I don't see why they would let you out later, but that's what happens.
I'm like confused about how PTSD would put you in such a state that you are unaware of your actions.
Right.
I mean, maybe like if a noise went off and you started having like a flashback.
Yeah.
You know, but like clearly that's not what happened here. I'm just
right,
gonna
that wasn't
go
the
out
situation.
on a limb.
Yeah. After this incident, Richard moved in with his sister Ruth and brother-in-law Roberto. Like Mike, Roberto was an influence on Richard and not a good one. At night, Roberto would take Richard out around neighborhoods to peep through women's windows. And once Mike was released from his institution, he would join them as a peeping Tom as well.
Jesus.
So now he's back. He has both of them in his life.
Sounds like the Night Stalkers. To me.
When Richard was a teenager, he was using LSD frequently and continuing to drink. Soon, he had gained an interest in Satanism and the occult. However, his interest in these things was not a normal one, and it was an interest he would use as the source of his bad behavior. Richard had clearly taken an interest in graphic sexual fantasies, including forced bondage, rape, mutilation, and even murder. While in high school, he got a job at a hotel, but not that one, a Holiday Inn near his house.
Nice.
He used his employee master key to rob guests as they slept. It was reported at one point that he had molested 2 children in the hotel's elevator, but this was never proven and he suffered no consequences. Richard did eventually lose this job, though, after being caught by a hotel guest attempting to rape the guest's wife. The man beat Richard when he found him, but ultimately dropped the charges because he did not want to return to Texas for the trial.
The guy whose wife he would have had to return? That's interesting.
Yeah, if I was almost raped and my husband was like, I don't feel like driving back to there for the trial, I would lose my freaking mind.
It also seems like a case that the DA could try without him.
Yeah.
Like, that seems like something you'd be interested in catching that person. It's not just
Right.
like, oh, someone slapped me in the face. Do you want to press charges or not? It's like,
Right.
this is a violent criminal. Like, you would think the state would have an interest in going forward with those charges.
Right.
Strange.
It's odd. Shortly after this, Richard dropped out of high school as a freshman, which means he would have been like 14 when all of those things happened at the most.
Yeah.
Unless he was retained, then maybe he's a little older. In 1982, when Richard was 22 years old, he moved to California, but bounced between Los Angeles and San Francisco, living what some referred to as a nomadic lifestyle. After moving to California, Richard began to use cocaine on top of his other drug habits. He became addicted to cocaine and would commit burglaries in order to get money for more. Now, it is time to get into the crimes of Richard Ramirez, the continued crimes of Richard Ramirez, because he's already broken the law.
Yeah.
Richard Ramirez famously went on a year-long crime spree known as the Night Stalker crimes before he was ultimately caught. We're going to get into the start of the spree, the details of the crimes, and how Richard Ramirez was captured, but I do want to warn you that the details of the crimes do get pretty repetitive. But I want to make sure we mention everyone's names and what happened, but a lot of the cases are very similar to one another. So, let's get started. On February 20th, 1985, 58-year-old Christina Caldwell and her 70-year-old sister Mary Caldwell were found stabbed to death in their shared apartment in Telegraph Hill. The Caldwell sisters' double murder was never officially linked to Richard Ramirez, but some prison officers and inmates claimed he bragged about the murders while incarcerated. So I want to put that one first because it's the only one I have that's not like official.
Yeah.
But after that, all of these are confirmed, and are in order. So, on April 10th, 1984, May Luong and her 8-year-old brother were searching for a lost $1 bill around their apartment building in the Tenderloin district of San Francisco. Another tenant approached them and offered to help them find it, suggesting they look in the basement. May followed him there, where he proceeded to beat her, strangle her, and then rape her. He stabbed her to death with a switchblade and hung her body from a pipe by her shirt. This case went cold for many years, but in 2009, DNA from the crime was confirmed to belong to Richard Ramirez. On June 28th, 1984, 79-year-old Jenny Vinco was found murdered in her Glassell Park, Los Angeles apartment. She had been stabbed in the head, neck, and chest, and her throat had been slashed near the point of decapitation. She was found in her bed, and it is believed she was asleep when she was attacked. It seems there was a bit of a break between these first two murders, and this is when the spree really kicks in, and becomes a weekly, if not nightly, ordeal.
Okay.
So on March 17th, 1985, 34-year-old Dale Yoshi Okazaki heard a gunshot from inside her home. She ducked behind her kitchen counter. When she raised her head to see what was happening, the intruder shot at her, hitting her in the forehead and killing her instantly. The gunshot she had heard was an attack on her 22-year-old roommate, Maria Hernandez. Ramia. Just switching all the letters around. Maria Hernandez. Richard Ramirez had attacked her outside of her home when she pulled her car into the garage. He aimed a .22 caliber handgun at her face, but she managed to lift her keys and the bullet ricocheted off of them. She fell to the ground and played dead until Ramirez fled. Within an hour of the attack on Maria and Dale, Richard Ramirez attacked another woman. 30-year-old Sigh Leon Yu, who went by Veronica, was driving in Monterey Park when Ramirez pulled her out of her car and shot her twice with the same .22 caliber handgun. By the time police arrived at the scene, the perpetrator had fled. They rushed Veronica to the hospital, but she was pronounced dead upon arrival. These 3 attacks were the first of the spree that the media was crediting to the walk-in killer or the Valley Intruder. Witnesses to the attacks described the killer as a curly-haired man with bulging eyes and widely spaced, rotting teeth.
Mm-hmm.
I would 100% think, like, that they were being attacked by some kind of, like, cryptid or something.
Yeah. I also think,
that
like,
was the description I got.
Surely Mike heard that and was like, I think I know.
I know. Yeah, I know somebody with bulging eyes and rotting teeth.
And who would definitely do that.
Yeah.
I also think, like, it's so shocking to me that someone who's, like, and I know this isn't true for all of Richard Ramirez's murders, but someone who is, like, into sadomasochism and satanic rituals and, like, all of these things and, like, human morbidity, that he often kills so swiftly.
Right.
Like, it just didn't seem to be, like, a serial killer usually has to, like, usually is a little more meticulous, like, needs to get gratification out of it, and, like, and sometimes he does, for sure.
Yeah.
But other times it's just, like, so shooting that person, like,
yeah,
brought you enough of, like, the feeling you need. Like, I just...
In my opinion, the earlier ones, I think, were more of, like, that he was robbing them.
Yeah.
And that's just how he handled it. But we do see later, like, him kind of start developing, like, routines and, like, MOs. But yeah, I do think it's interesting that he moves so quickly.
Yeah.
For someone who is so interested in, like, the dark side of the occult.
Mm-hmm.
On March 27th, 1985, 10 days after the triple attack, the home of 64-year-old Vincent Charles Zazura and his wife, 44-year-old Maxine Lavinia Zazura, was broken into just outside of Whittier, California. Ramirez entered the home at around 2 a.m. and immediately killed Vincent as he slept. Maxine woke up when she heard the gunshot. Once she was awake, Ramirez beat her and bound her hands together before demanding that she tell him where she kept their valuables. As Ramirez ransacked their home, Maxine managed to escape the binds he had placed on her hands. She reached under the bed and grabbed a shotgun, aimed it at Ramirez, and pulled the trigger. What Maxine did not realize at the time was that the gun was not loaded, and when she aimed it at Ramirez and shot a blank, he became infuriated. I did not talk this evening.
That's rough.
Yeah. He shot at her 3 times before retrieving a kitchen knife and mutilating her body. He carved an inverted cross into her chest and then plucked her eyes out, placing them into a jewelry box that he took with him when he fled the scene. He would later admit that he tried to rape Maxine's body but was unsuccessful, claiming he was too shaken up from almost being shot.
That must suck.
The Zazuras' son, Peter, was the one to find their bodies and notify the police. At the scene, the police discovered only 2 pieces of evidence, but it was enough for them to connect this crime to the previous attacks. What they had found was footprints left in the flower bed belonging to a pair of AVS sneakers and .22 caliber bullets. On May 14th, 1985, the home of 66-year-old Bill Doy and his wife, 56-year-old Lillian Doy, was broken into in Monterey Park. Richard Ramirez entered their bedroom, taking them by surprise and immediately shooting Bill in the face with a .22 semi-automatic pistol. After the gunshot, Ramirez proceeded to beat Bill until he was unconscious. Then Ramirez ransacked the home before making his way to Lillian's bedroom, who was physically disabled. He bound her with thumb cuffs, which are not the same as Chinese finger traps, which is what I was picturing.
Yeah, no.
They are tiny handcuffs for your thumbs.
Mm-hmm.
Big metal ones. And he raped her before fleeing the home. Bill Doy died at the hospital. On May 29th, 1985, Richard Ramirez broke into the house of 83-year-old Mabel Ma Bell and her disabled sister, 81-year-old Florence Nettie Lang, in Monrovia after stealing a car. Upon entering the home, Ramirez went to the kitchen and grabbed a hammer. He bound Ma, bludgeoning her with the hammer, and then shocked her with an electrical cord. He then raped Nettie and used her sister's lipstick to draw a pentagram on her thigh and on both walls of her bedroom. The sisters weren't found for another 2 days, but when they were discovered, they were both alive in a comatose state. Nettie survived, but Ma died of her injuries at the hospital.
Whoa.
I know.
That's crazy, man. And it sucks because it's like if people had found them sooner, they both might have lived.
Yeah.
But just also so interesting. It's like for someone who is able to get away with this for so long, and I don't mean it in the way we normally mean this, but like he's just so disorganized. Like he doesn't have a specific type. He doesn't have a tried and true method. He doesn't have like always takes trophies. He's just like, it's just like whatever. It's just like
like I feel like when he's doing this, there's not like a single thought happening in his brain. Like it is like
doing bad
somehow
is
become
fun.
like purely instinct for him.
Yeah, and it's like it's like the nature of doing a bad thing is what he's enjoying. Yeah. Like most of the time, like there is a specific thing that a serial killer needs.
Right.
And it's just like for him, it's like scaring people is all he needs.
Yeah.
You know?
It's interesting, like how different he is from other serial killers.
Yeah.
And I think like a lot of times he is like referred to more as a spree killer. Like it is just like the thrill of a crime spree for him, but like yeah. So the very next day, Ramirez drove the same stolen car to Burbank and broke into the home of 42-year-old Carol Kyle and her 11-year-old son. He bound them both with handcuffs and burglarized their home. Then he placed Carol's son in the closet before releasing her to allow her to show him where she kept valuables. Once he had gathered the most valuable items in the home, he raped Carol, telling her that if she looked at him, he would cut her eyes out. When he was finished, he let Carol's son back out of the closet, bound him to his mother with handcuffs, and left the home.
Interesting.
No attempt to kill them.
Okay.
Which again is like
weird.
What are you doing? You're just running around crazy.
Yeah. Weird.
On June 27th, 1985, someone broke into the home of 32-year-old Patty Elaine Higgins. On July 2nd, when Patty didn't show up for work, her home was checked on and her body was discovered. She had been sodomized, strangled, and her throat had been slashed. Richard Ramirez was charged for this crime later on, but charges were dropped due to a lack of physical evidence. But he definitely probably did it.
Yeah. And isn't that, like, part of his thing, too, is that, like, this is all at the request of, like, Satan, and that he's, like, protected by Satan. That's why he's not being caught. So I feel like that's part of it, too, is, like, if it's just Satan telling you to do it, Satan wants you to do any bad thing, I would assume. So he doesn't need you to kill in any specific way. He just needs you to hurt people. And then I also think that's part of his, like, why he leaves survivors, why he leaves footprints, why he's not, like, super deliberate, is because he believes, like, he's gonna be taken care of.
He's like, I'm not gonna get caught.
I got the devil on my side.
Thank goodness. On the same night that Patty was found, Richard Ramirez drove a stolen car to Arcadia and broke into the home of 75-year-old widowed grandmother Mary Louise Cannon. As Mary slept, Ramirez bludgeoned her with a lamp and then stabbed her to death with her own 10-inch butcher knife. On July 5th, 1985.
Were there times you think that he went without a weapon at all? And just used what they had?
I think most of the time he went without a weapon.
Okay. I just didn't know if maybe he, preferred, had the gun, but, preferred to use their stuff, or...
Yeah. I really think he just is, like, running around, and, like, if he's out and about and he decides, like, he's gonna break in, then he just goes with whatever he has or lack of what he has.
Yeah. Weird.
On July 5th, 1985, Ramirez broke into the Sierra Madre home of 16-year-old Whitney Bennett. He bludgeoned her with a tire iron after finding her sleeping in her bedroom. He searched the kitchen for a knife but was unable to find one. Instead, he attempted to strangle Whitney with a telephone cord. When he wrapped the cord around her neck, electrical sparks shot out from it and Whitney began to breathe again. Ramirez later stated that this spooked him because he thought it was a sign that Jesus Christ was attempting to intervene and save Whitney.
Yeah!
Which I have to say, coupled with the fact that there was not a single knife in their family kitchen.
I was about to say, why is there not a knife in this girl's kitchen?
Yeah. But not a single knife in a like, remember, she's 16. She still lives with her family. Like, not a single knife in a family kitchen?
Yeah. You're finding hammers in other people's kitchens. You get to this girl's house, she don't got a knife, and then you resuscitate her. That's gotta make you question how much the devil is helping you, for sure.
You're like, shit, I thought the devil was protecting me, but apparently God is protecting her.
Yeah. Yikes.
He fled the home after she began to breathe again, and Whitney survived the attack.
Go,
being taken to the hospital. Yeah. To receive 478 stitches in her scalp.
Oh. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
But go Whitney.
Yeah. So sad, but yeah.
I know. On July 7th, 1985, Ramirez broke into the Monterey Park home of 60-year-old Joyce Lucille Nelson. She was sleeping on her living room couch.
She was just slipping around.
Slipping on the couch. It's because I didn't teach today. I haven't had to talk. She was sleeping on her living room couch when Ramirez entered her home and stomped on her face until she died.
What? Like, again, it's like, did he look for tools and couldn't find them?
Yeah.
Or, like, was he just like, this is a way I haven't killed anyone yet. I should try it.
Yeah.
How weird.
He is engaging in every single intrusive thought.
Yeah, seriously. And he thinks, like, it's the devil speaking. No, baby. We don't have them that bad, but we all have intrusive thoughts.
We all be having intrusive thoughts, though.
We just don't be doing them. Stop.
Yeah. The shoe prints left on her face matched those of the Avia sneakers found at other scenes. So that's how they were able to link them.
I guess thank you for that, Richard. I don't know.
That same night, he broke into the home of 63-year-old Sophie Dickman in the same neighborhood. He held her at gunpoint and handcuffed her before attempting to rape her and stealing all of her jewelry. He asked her if she had anything left of value, and she swore she had found it all, or he had found it all. Before he left, he made her swear to Satan that he had all of the valuable items in the home. On July 20th, 1985, Ramirez stole another car and purchased a machete before driving to the Glendale home of 66-year-old Leela Needing and her 68-year-old husband, Maxon Needing. He entered the bedroom and began to hack at them with his machete before shooting each of them in the head with a .22 caliber handgun.
It's also so interesting because if you think about this man only having one pair of shoes, every time he strips naked and walks into the Cecil, he is wearing nothing but Avia sneakers because he never gets new shoes.
True.
But they ain't never been a speck of blood on your shoe? Or does he go back, the shoes mean so much, he goes back and fetches those the next morning? I want those shoes.
I need to wash my shoes.
What a weirdo.
He then mutilated both of their bodies with the machete and robbed their home. He went on to sell what he had stolen from them and then drove to Sun Valley. At around 4:15 a.m., he broke into the home of 32-year-old married couple, Chainarong and Samkid Covenant, and their 8-year-old son. He shot Chainarong in the head with a .25 caliber handgun, killing him instantly. He raped Samkid and then bound their son. He made Samkid show him around the home to identify any valuables the family had. He stole the items and then told Samkid to swear to Satan that she wasn't hiding any money from him. On August 6, 1985, Richard Ramirez broke into the Northridge home of 30-year-old Chris Peterson and 27-year-old Virginia Peterson. He went into the couple's bedroom and shot Virginia in the face with a .25 caliber semi-automatic handgun. He shot Chris in the neck, but Chris did his best to fight back. As he wrestled with the intruder, he was shot 2 more times, and Ramirez managed to escape and flee the home. Both Chris and Virginia survived their injuries.
Good.
He got shot 3 times.
Good for them. In the face.
Mm-hmm. On August 8th, 1985, after stealing another car, Richard Ramirez broke into the Diamond Bar home of 27-year-old Sakine Abawath and her 31-year-old husband, Elias Abawath. He went straight into their bedroom and shot Elias in the head with a .25 caliber handgun, killing him instantly. He bound Sakina with handcuffs and beat her as he asked where they kept their jewelry. He then made her swear to Satan that she wouldn't scream as he raped her. During the assault on Sakina, her 3-year-old son entered the room and was immediately tied up. Ramirez continued to rape Sakina and then fled the home. She untied her son and sent him to the neighbor's home to call for help.
Well, I guess she's injured.
Yeah.
I was like, I ain't sending my son outside right now. Hell no. But I got it.
No.
She can't. Got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah. On August 18th, 1985, Richard Ramirez drove to San Francisco as his crimes continued to gain attention in the Los Angeles area. He broke into the home of 66-year-old Peter Pan and his 62-year-old wife, Barbara Pan.
Cute.
I know. He shot Peter in the head with a .25 caliber handgun, killing him instantly. Ramirez then beat Barbara and sexually assaulted her before he shot her in the head. He then used lipstick to draw a pentagram and the phrase "Jack the Knife" on the bedroom wall. I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
On August 24th, 1985, Richard Ramirez stole an orange Toyota and drove it to the Mission Viejo home of 45-year-old James Romero Jr. and his 13-year-old son, James III. If I were to steal a car, I wouldn't steal an orange one.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Come on now.
James III was still awake, as they had just returned from a family vacation in Mexico. He had left his pillow in the car after the trip and went outside to retrieve it, where he heard rustling coming from the flower bed.
Uh-oh.
He looked around and he didn't see any animals or anything out of the ordinary. So he grabbed his pillow, went back in the garage, and he heard footsteps outside. He ran inside and looked out of his bedroom window where he saw Ramirez, and then woke his parents up to tell them what was happening. James Jr., who's the dad, ran outside and managed to catch Ramirez leaving their home and called the police to give them a description of the car, the orange car, dumbass, and the intruder, and a partial license plate number.
Mm-hmm. That's so crazy. So was he was just in the bush by himself making all that noise?
Yeah. I think it's interesting that he was so easily scared off.
Yeah.
The same night, Ramirez broke into the home of 30-year-old Bill Carnes and his 29-year-old fiancée Inez Erickson. He entered through their back door and made his way to their bedroom. Bill woke up when he heard Ramirez cock his .25 caliber handgun. He shot Bill 3 times in the head, waking Inez up as well. He told Inez that he was the Night Stalker and made her swear she loved Satan before he beat her and bound her with her fiancé's neckties. He burglarized the home and then raped Inez. He made her show him any cash or jewelry he had missed and then told her to swear to Satan that he had found anything of value. He told her, quote, "Tell them the Night Stalker was here."
So creepy.
He fled the home and Inez untied herself and ran to a neighbor's house for help. Bill was rushed into surgery and 2 bullets were removed from his head and he ultimately survived his injuries.
This is crazy. You hear, headshot, you're dead. No option, you're dead. You're always dead. There's no other option. You're gonna die instantly. And man, the amount of people that I've heard of that get shot in the head or face and live, it's a lot.
He was shot 3 times in the head.
That is crazy, man.
Yeah.
I mean, great. It's great.
So,
but
yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
For Bill, but absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
So as these crimes were piling up, investigators were compiling evidence found at each scene and using it to narrow down who they were looking for. The AVS sneaker print was found at several scenes, and police were able to match it to an uncommon pair of AVS shoes. That's why they were so important to him, because they were rare.
He knew it.
Lead detectives on the case, Frank Salerno and Gil Carrillo, contacted the manufacturer of AVS shoes and were given a sample of the soles of this type of sneaker. They learned that only 6 pairs of these shoes existed in the size 11.5 of the prints they found. 5 pairs were sent to locations in Arizona, and 1 pair was shipped to a shoe store in Los Angeles.
That's so crazy, because, when now, because you can order stuff online, you may have just been the only person to order it, but it's that means 1 pair went to that one store in his size, and he just happened to go get it, and he didn't know that he bought a rare shoe that is, stupid.
In addition to the shoe prints, ballistics at many of the crime scenes matched, since they were all from 22 or 25 caliber handguns. The mayor of San Francisco at the time, Dianne Feinstein, rest in peace.
Yep. Feinstein.
Dianne. Yeah. Feinstein. Rest in peace, Dianne.
Bad
after
timing.
This week. Yeah. What are the odds?
Yeah.
Called a press conference where she leaked the information detectives had gathered about the shoes and the gun caliber, much to the chagrin of the detectives.
We're not trying to speak ill of the dead.
Yeah.
It's the story.
Why do you do that, Dianne?
Yeah. Dianne, you lived a long, wonderful life.
Yes, you did great things.
Just
but
not
this specific thing.
that.
Yeah. They felt that the killer was likely following along with the media coverage and that if he saw the press conference, he would destroy forensic evidence that they needed. That night, Richard Ramirez threw his beloved Avia sneakers over the edge of the Golden Gate Bridge.
No!
I know. What is he gonna wear on his feet now?
How do we know that? Did he admit to that?
Yes.
Richard.
Or maybe he didn't and they found them on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge. Whoa, where did my voice go? That was scary. Maybe not. Maybe they found them on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge and they were like, well, there's only one pair, so.
And we can pretty much guess when he threw them.
Yeah. Luckily, many survivors offered assistance in identifying their attacker. Inez Erickson gave his description to police. At the Romero home, police were able to cast a mold of a footprint found outside. The orange Toyota he was driving that night was found abandoned in Koreatown, and police were able to obtain a fingerprint from the rearview mirror, even though the rest of the car had been wiped clean. The police used a newly installed software on this print to compare to a criminal database, and it came back with a positive match to a 25-year-old drifter from Texas with a very long criminal history, riddled with everything from traffic violations to drug use, named Richard Ramirez. It was a long shot that this software would even work, as it only contained fingerprints of individuals born after January 1st, 1960, a month before Richard Ramirez was born.
Yikes.
If he had been born a month later, or a month earlier,
Yeah.
he wouldn't have been in it. On August 29th, 1985, detectives released a 1984 mugshot of Ramirez to the media that had been taken when he was arrested for stealing a car. Police then called a press conference where they looked into the camera and spoke directly to the killer, saying, quote, "We know who you are now, and soon everyone else will. There will be no place you can hide." And boy, were they right.
I was about to say that.
Like, holy shnikes, the way this man was caught. On August 30th, 1985, Richard Ramirez arrived by bus to Tucson, Arizona to see his brother.
Did you just say Tucson?
Unbeknownst to him. Huh?
Did you just say Tucson?
I did. That's how I say it.
Okay. I won't yuck your yum.
I'm standing by it.
Okay.
I corrected myself on Feinstein, but I will not be correcting myself on this.
Okay.
On August 30th, 1985, Richard Ramirez... Nope, I already read that part. I'm not reading it again.
Please say Tucson again. I can't wait.
How else do you want me to say it?
Tucson. It's Tucson.
Why is there a C there?
I don't know. It's like that episode where the Morbid girls like swear it's St. Louis, and I just know they got eaten alive in those comments.
I did. Luckily, we don't have enough listeners to eat me alive.
It's true. I will. I'll be all the hate comments. Tucson!
I think, like, here's the thing. We've covered both bases.
Yeah.
I've said Tucson, you've said Tucson.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And only one of us
either
is
way,
right.
we're right.
No.
Okay.
Continue.
Unbeknownst to him, back home in California, his face was being plastered across any type of media one could find, and people were on the hunt to catch the Night Stalker and bring him to justice. When he arrived in Arizona, his brother wasn't home.
He wasn't home?
No.
Jesus. Poor
I can't
guy.
imagine being alive in the 80s, traveling to a whole other state just to find that my brother's not home.
Yeah.
So he just turned right around and went back to LA.
He didn't want to wait?
Nope.
Okay.
He said, oh, he's not home. Never mind. I'm telling you, every intrusive thought he has. He's like, I'm going to go visit my brother. Oh, my brother's not here. Gotta go back home.
Bye.
Like, literally not a single thought passes through his head before he just does something.
So strange.
He arrived back in LA in the early morning hours of the 31st and managed to walk right past the police officers without detection. At the bus station, I think.
Good job, police.
It would turn out, though, that they weren't really the ones he needed to be fearful of. Richard Ramirez entered a convenience store in East Los Angeles and immediately began to hear the whispers of the shoppers around him, calling him El Matador and Invasor Nocturno. Up until this point, he hadn't seen any of the media coverage where they had identified him, but hearing those people whisper around him made him question what they knew. And that is when he saw it. A copy of the newspaper La Opinion with his face front and center. He panicked and ran out of the store and across the Santa Ana freeway, where he tried desperately to open the door of an unlocked Ford Mustang. Before he could even get the door open, a man named Faustino Piñon had pulled him to the ground. Richard got up and ran across the street, attempting to take another car from Angelina de la Torre. During the struggle to take Angelina's keys, her husband Manuel de la Torre saw what was happening and struck Ramirez in the head with a fence post.
Nice.
You just have those handy. When he got up to continue running, a crowd of Boyle Heights residents chased him until they were able to knock him to the ground, where they proceeded to beat and kick him until the police arrived at around 8 a.m.
We love a citizen's arrest.
Richard Ramirez.
We love a kind of citizen's arrest. Yeah.
Richard Ramirez was arrested at the 3700 block of Hubbard Street, severely injured and unarmed. We don't care that he was unarmed.
Yeah.
Officer Jim Kaiser. This is like the one time we don't care.
Yeah, this is not like an innocent, unarmed man situation. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. It's too bad.
I'm just giving you the fact. Officer Jim Kaiser drove Ramirez to the Hollenbeck police station, where Officer Andy Ramirez stayed back to control. While Officer Andy Ramirez stayed back to control the crowd and give them time to disperse. So they had to have someone on crowd control.
Yeah. Isn't it?
After this.
Yeah.
The trial of Richard Ramirez began on July 22nd, 1988, with jury selection. When Ramirez appeared in court, he raised his hand, which had a pentagram drawn on it, and yelled out, "Hail Satan." I thought, for some reason, that it had been carved into his hand.
Yeah.
And then finding out that he had just drawn it on,
yeah,
I was like, you can't even commit to the bit?
Yeah, come on now. I want to see some self-torture then.
Charles Manson could do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
On August 14th, the trial was stalled because one of the jurors, Phyllis Singletary, failed to appear in the courtroom.
Phyllis!
Later that day... Huh?
Phyllis! Come on.
No, don't yell at Phyllis. Don't yell at her.
Why?
Later that day, she was found deceased in her apartment from an apparent gunshot wound.
From who?
This terrified the jury.
Oh, no.
And they began to speculate if Ramirez had arranged Phyllis's murder from in prison, especially because of a Los Angeles Times report that had come out on August 3rd. It stated that some employees from within the jail had overheard Ramirez planning to shoot the prosecutor with a gun that he had a plan for smuggling into the courtroom.
Phyllis.
Since this article came out, A metal detector had been installed inside of the courthouse, and anyone who entered had to be extensively searched by security.
Good call.
The development of Phyllis's fatal shooting had everyone on edge. Later, it was determined that Richard Ramirez was not responsible for Phyllis's murder, and she had actually been shot by her boyfriend, and he had later died by suicide with the same weapon in a hotel.
Aww.
Phyllis was eventually replaced with an alternate juror, and the trial was able to continue, despite how fearful the jury had become.
That sucks.
On September 20th, I know. Now you feel bad for yelling at Phyllis?
Yeah, and it sucks because there's, like, not even a trial for her. And then this shit just, like, they're like, we just replace her and resume.
Yeah.
It's just like,
On September 20th, 1989, Richard Ramirez was convicted of 43 charges, 13 counts of murder, 5 counts of attempted murder, 11 counts of sexual assault, and 14 counts of burglary. He was sentenced to death on November 7th in California's gas chamber. And I remember our conversation from the Gabriel Fernandez case about California and being sentenced to death.
Yes.
So I looked up when the death penalty was abolished in the state of California, and it was in 1972.
Okay.
So it was likely that Ramirez would never actually make it to that gas chamber.
Yeah.
I still don't really know why they picked that.
Yeah.
But
like, are they waiting for it to, like, be unoverturned,
or is
it just symbolic, like, to be like, these are the worst of the worst, they're on death row, they're not gonna die, but, like,
maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, we want you to know how bad they are, but also if it comes back and they die, they die.
Yeah.
After the sentencing, Ramirez spoke to reporters saying, quote, "Big deal. Death always went with the territory. See you in Disneyland."
Okay.
I don't know.
No.
During his incarceration, many fans wrote to Richard Ramirez and paid him visits in prison. In 1985, in the midst of the trial, Doreen Loy had written him about 75 letters. In 1988, Ramirez proposed to Doreen, and on October 3rd, 1996, the two married in the San Quentin State Prison.
How sweet.
Doreen was a devoted supporter of her husband, even going so far as to claim she would complete suicide if he was ever actually executed, which isn't really a bold statement in a state where the death penalty has been abolished.
Yeah.
In 2009,
she's
when
like,
DNA finally linked...
This is how much I love you. And he's like,
yeah.
Aw, and we're all like...
like, that's not gonna happen. In 2009, when DNA finally linked Ramirez to the rape and murder of 9-year-old May Loing, whom I mentioned in the beginning, Doreen filed for divorce.
Oh.
So I guess everyone has a limit, even serial killer stands.
Interesting.
That's where she draws the line.
Nice. I guess good for her. I don't know.
Yep. After their divorce, Ramirez met a young writer and became engaged to her. She is 33 right now. So she was a very young writer at the time. Yes.
Yes.
Ramirez began filing appeals in 2006, but the California Supreme Court ultimately upheld his convictions and death sentence and denied his request for a rehearing. On June 3rd, 2013, Richard Ramirez died at Marin General Hospital in Green Bay, California. His death was credited, and I'd like to thank these people. B-cell lymphoma. as well as chronic substance abuse and chronic hepatitis C.
Ow, wow.
Yeah.
How do you have...
Thank you, guys.
Good work.
But I think mostly the cancer.
Yeah. Whatever. That old thing.
Richard Ramirez. Yeah. Richard Ramirez stayed on the 14th floor of the Cecil Hotel during his crime spree. One resident from the time Ramirez stayed there was quoted in the Netflix series The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel saying, quote, "Back in the 80s, I would never go farther than the 6th floor. Usually the higher floors of the Cecil, people used to get killed up there." End quote. Even though there is no evidence of the fact that Ramirez brought any victims back to the hotel, it's safe to say that he was in the seedier part of the building. And Ramirez was known to have fans, one of which also chose to stay at the Cecil, and whom we will cover at the end of this series. So, a little bit of a to be continued. The end.
Wow. What a freaking goon.
I know.
Awful, evil goon, but...
Yeah. Just literally not a single thought.
Yeah.
Like, you know when you see, like, a child do something so strange and you're like, why? Why would you do that? Like, what possessed you to do that? But, like...
they just, stick a rock in their ear and you're like... And you thought
like,
that
why?
would be fun? Like, why?
Right. For what reason? It's like that, but, like, the worst version of it. And continuously.
Yeah. So
also
strange.
Did not know that chronic hepatitis was a thing.
Yeah, I didn't either. Okay, in the Night Stalker documentary, they talked about, like, that before his murders, he had, like, abducted kids, but, like, just, like, took them places, and, like, didn't really do anything to them. Did we ever find anything out about that? Like,
I did not read about that in my research. Personally.
Yeah, but he wasn't charged with any abductions or anything.
But no, so I think that, like, the crimes he had been charged for before the Night Stalker crimes, I think were mostly, like, traffic violations, like theft, drug use, like minor things in the grand scheme of Richard Ramirez. But like I said, like, there was that alleged incident in, like, the elevator of the Holiday Inn he worked at, so, like, maybe some stuff happened that wasn't, like, official, proven.
I know in that they did have one girl that, like, was a child survivor of Richard Ramirez, so that was interesting. I think he, like, took her to, like, a gas station and then maybe sexually assaulted her, but like, definitely, I don't know. But it's just so, like, the breadth of his criminal career is just, like, so, it's so huge, so crazy. The age gaps, the race gaps, the, like, he's just killing people's husbands. He's, like, sometimes sexually assaulting them, sometimes not. It's, like, so crazy.
Sometimes he just lets them, he just leaves.
Well, if you prayed to Satan, I believe it. It's, like, weird.
Yeah. Crazy.
Well, good work.
That's all I have.
Not Rich Ramirez, you.
No. Yeah. I love, like, the American Horror Story, Richard Ramirez, like, plot line.
Mm-hmm.
You were distracting me. You were going, and you're like, "Come on now, get that with hands. Stop that." But yeah, I love the American Horror Story version of Richard Ramirez, like from 1984 and also from Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mostly I love watching the scene where they catch him.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
It's like the scene from Barbie where she's like running through the Mattel thing, but like you're hoping they catch him.
Yeah.
And then they do.
Well.
Good.
Woo! Okay, next week will be spookier.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. It'll be in the Cecil. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.